There are a couple of parables about a light, a lamp. And this one is a little different because Luke remembers it, I suspect, a bit differently and actually gives to us, I think, a rather interesting slant on that whole concept. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in a cellar. No. But on the lampstand so that those who enter may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But if it's not healthy, your body is full of darkness. Therefore, consider whether the light in you is not darkness. If then your whole body is full of light, with no part of it in darkness, is full of that light, it will be full of the light as when a lamp goes on with its rays. Well, over the past year or so, and frankly, every year, there's always something on the internet that calls our attention to one of the heavenly light shows. And so consider these. The sun is in a declining phase. That's not because it's going out, folks. No, it's not going to go out. But it is producing, nevertheless, major flares and sunspots, which those who have excellent capacity with their telescopes are able to see those sunspots and those flares, but not looking directly at the sun. Saturn, its rings appear to be on edge shortly, and that's because of the way it's circulating and it's rotating. And so special view of the planet can be seen past and through those rings. The James Webb Space Telescope system has observed an 8 light-year long jet of gas. Now, if you're wondering what 8 light-year long jet of gas is, a light year is 5.88 miles. So a light year is 8 times that. 47.4 million miles is what indeed that gas light year is showing us. Astronauts observed a star being ripped apart in one of the black holes. Now, we can't see those things without light. Without the light that comes from the sun, we're able to see them. There's a comet, 31/Atlas, an interstellar comet. Now, a comet that's interstellar comes from another star, and so it breaks loose and all of its pieces begin to show up as a comet. It's emerging, and it will be as visible for those who have high-power telescopes. And then add to that the various meteor showers, the Beaver supermoon, and the brilliant northern lights that have been showing up more recently. All of these lights are part of the universe, is part of our universe. And one wonders about how the other universes display their lights indeed. You may recall that in the beginning of the Old Testament, the writers of the story in Genesis say, in the beginning, there was God, and in the beginning, God created. And there was darkness upon the earth. There was earth and there was water, but there was darkness. And the message was that God then said, let there be light. And it wasn't a burned out string of lights on the tree. There was light. And light became part. And then God separated the light from the darkness, and we have day and night. Now, the reality is that light is essential to us as humans. There is no way that we can live our lives on this planet without light. For instance, it enables us to perceive colors. So when you look out and you see colors, you're able to see them because of the light, because the light helps you understand that with your eyes. And to navigate the environment, so when you're walking, your eyes obviously pick up where there's some slippery ice or where the snow is deeper. I was putting on lights or ribbons on a light post, and I'd forgotten that the area that I walked off of took a dip. So I'm holding these ribbons in my hand, and I proceeds to miss the fact that I was going to take a dip, and next thing you know, I dipped myself into the snow. My eyes wasn't able to see beyond the cover of snow. Light helps regulate our body's internal clock. Yes, there is an internal clock within us. And that light enables us to know when we're awake and when we're asleep. Now, it may be disturbed both during the day and at night as a result of anxiety, or if you're thinking anxiously about something that you have to do and a performance that you have to give. So it may be altered in some way, but our body regulates, and that cycle allows the various hormones to be released and a metabolism to take place within our body. Light does that. Exposure to natural sunlight helps our bodies produce vitamin D. We've already heard that so many times. Get out in the sun, you get some vitamin D. Don't overdo it, but get that sun to help you produce the vitamin D. And a proper light exposure can indeed help a person improve their mood. I know that when we were operating a halfway house for the recovering severely mentally ill folks in Rhinelander, that I kept saying to the staff, you need to get folks out into the fresh air, and carefully walking the street in Rhinelander so that the sidewalks, which are cleared, so that they can get out there to get that light and get their mood lifted and the exercise in their body cared for. Light is essential. And so Jesus understood that in such wonderful ways. This parable is a parable called the parable of the light. It could be called the parable of the any number of other things, like the parable of the eye or the parable of the body, because the parable has several messages in it, even though parables tend to have just one. Jesus understands that you don't light a light and then put it under a bushel, as in the earlier parable about the light, but indeed you let it there so that people can see it. Now, Jesus understood that. They would come into someone's home in the evening, the light would be on, the lamp would be lit, and people could see their way into a place where they could converse and greet one another. They would be able to see their way as the host would invite them to a dinner table, and they could see where they were to sit. And they could see the food they were eating and where it was on their plate and their dish. The idea that light needed to be present so that we could live our lives in a creative way, an imaginative way. Those who walked through the valley of the shadow of death, which was a real valley, where there were robbers and wild animals, they needed their eyesight to be able to see danger and to be careful as they were walking on the pathways leading through that valley. It was Mary and Joseph who walked through that valley to go to the place where Jesus would be born. Sight is so essential. And Jesus understood that. But then he took the idea that the light would be somehow also our eyes. Our eyes would be the light of the body. We would see what would be necessary for us to be able to live life creatively and imaginatively. You may recall that the prodigal son, when he's sitting in that pigsty, comes to his senses, I've said, and the light bulb went on. He saw what he had done. He saw it in such a way that he realized he'd made a huge mistake, that he understood that he had sinned not only against God, but had sinned against his father. So he made the decision to change because he saw what was happening to him on the basis of his poor choices. He went back home to his father. And there he was received with love and gentleness and compassion. Jesus understood that the eye of a person may also reflect whether or not the lights are on in terms of one's great sense of compassion and kindness and love, so that if the person's eyes are showing warmth and gentleness, it can be seen and can be received as a sign that this person indeed is someone who understands the call of God through Jesus. Additionally, what Jesus then says is that the light becomes the light for the whole body, which fascinates me because now Jesus is moving away from a single lamp to someone's eye to now he's talking about that person's body, which now is brilliant. It has a blaze of warmth and gentleness and kindness. You know, you and I light our fireplaces and we find that light just stimulating and warm and gentle as we sit and enjoy it. And particularly at this holiday season, having our lights on Christmas trees just adds such joy. The other night, Nancy said, whoop, the lights went out. Turns out that the plug that I have wasn't plugged in all the way. And so it just decided that half the tree would quit being lit. I could go back and light it. It had happened before. So the body becomes the light that is seen. And then Jesus understood if the whole person, the whole being is lit with a glow of faith and warmth and gentleness and compassion, a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood of all of God's people, all of God's family, that indeed that person will be able to light the way perhaps for others who are responsive to the warmth and gentleness they offer. Then the whole body represents the light. And so the eyes that see the pain and the suffering of those who are part of our community or the larger part of this earth can be responded to. If the eyes see that, they can respond. Then their heart and inner being begin to feel kindness and gentleness for that person, like the man who comes along and sees a person in the ditch who'd been beaten and robbed, bruised and bleeding. The Good Samaritan responded. And indeed, our voices become the light as well. The words we say, the kindness we offer to one another, the gentleness we share with each other as we recognize the needs that they have and we have, so that the light becomes our words. And then our actions become the light. The whole body responds, and reminding ourselves over and over again that love is action. We've moved away from understanding that in some ways. We think of it as an emotion, but it is an action. Jesus, in the writing, in the speaking to his followers and to those who were there to listen to him, spoke about love as sacrifice, as giving, as responding to the stranger, to the wounded, to the sick, to the lost, and to the lonely. Indeed, our actions, as someone has said so long ago, speak louder than our words. Our actions and our words combined speak powerfully of the light that is within us, deep within our soul. So we can say wonderfully, let there be light. Amen.